Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the stars through the large window. The ship was called Beacon of Hope, and it was one of Earth's best defense vessels. For 3 years, Minho had been patrolling the outer edges of human space, keeping watch for any signs of trouble. Today felt different. The communication officer, Lieutenant Park Da-young, had been receiving strange messages all morning. Her face looked worried as she turned to face the captain. "Sir, we are getting emergency broadcasts from all over the galaxy," she said. "Something big is happening." Minho walked over to her station. The screen showed dozens of incoming messages, all marked as urgent. He recognized the symbols of many different alien races: the proud crystalline hegemony, the machine collective called the binary confluence, and even signals from the ancient sage worlds. "Put the first message on the main screen," Minho ordered. The bridge filled with the strange musical voice of a crystalline leader. The translation system worked quickly to change their words into human language. "To all listening civilizations, the end times have come. The devourers have awakened from the void between galaxies. They consume not just planets and ships, but the very souls of living beings. We retreat now into our crystal sanctuaries. Do not attempt to contact us. Survival requires silence." The message ended abruptly. Before anyone could speak, another message began playing. This one came from the binary confluence, spoken in their cold, mechanical voices. Analysis complete. The entities designated as devourers represent extinction-level threat. Our collective consciousness will upload to quantum storage and enter dormant state. Biological species advised to seek similar refuge. Mathematical probability of survival in normal space approaches 0. Message after message played on the bridge. The sage worlds, who had existed for millions of years, announced they were hiding in temporal bubbles. The warrior clans of the Outer Rim were sealing themselves in underground bunkers. Even the Trade Federation that connected the entire galaxy was shutting down all operations. "What are these devourers?" asked Commander Kim Yoonji, the ship's first officer. Before Minho could answer, a new type of message came through. This one was addressed directly to Earth's government. The voice belonged to Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Council, a species that had always treated humans as junior members of galactic society. "Humans of Earth, we offer you sanctuary in our fold space refuges. Your species is young and may not understand the threat these entities represent. The devourers have consumed entire star systems in the past. They feed on consciousness itself, leaving behind empty shells of once living worlds. Accept our offer quickly. Time grows short." Similar offers came from other species. The crystalline hegemony offered space in their hidden dimensions. The sage worlds promised temporal protection. Even species that had never been friendly to humans were now offering to help them hide. Minho felt a chill run down his spine. If beings who had lived for millions of years were this scared, the threat must be beyond imagination. He opened a communication channel to Earth's capital. "This is Captain Lee Minho of the Beacon of Hope, requesting immediate connection to President Park Suman." Within minutes, the president's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. Behind her, Minho could see the busy activity of the Emergency Command Center. "Captain, I assume you have heard the broadcasts, President," Park said. "Yes, Madam President, what are your orders? Should we head to the nearest evacuation point?" The president was quiet for a long moment. Around the bridge, Minho's crew waited for her answer. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. Hope, maybe, or determination. "Captain, I have been in communication with the Galactic Council for the past 6 hours. They have made their position clear. Every major civilization is retreating into hiding. They believe this is the only way to survive." "And what do we believe, Madam President?" President Park smiled, and Minho recognized the expression. It was the same look humans got when they were about to do something that others would call crazy. "We believe that someone needs to keep the lights on," she said. "In 1 hour I will address the Galactic Council. Earth will not be accepting any evacuation offers. We will remain in normal space, and we will keep our borders open." The bridge fell, silent. Minho felt his heart beating faster. Madam President, with respect, that sounds like suicide. Perhaps, Captain, but consider this. If everyone hides, who will help the survivors? Who will rescue the lost ships? Who will maintain the communication networks that connect our galaxy? Before Minho could respond, Lieutenant Park called out from her station. Sir, we are receiving a priority message from the Valtharian Empire. Put it through, Minho said. The hologram of a tall, elegant alien appeared on the bridge. The Valtharians were known for their pride and their belief that they were superior to all other species, especially humans. Humans, the alien said, his voice filled with disgust. We have intercepted your government's communications. You cannot be serious about remaining in normal space. The Devourers will destroy you within days of their arrival. President Park's image was still on the screen. She looked directly at the Valtharian representative. That may be true, Ambassador, but we will not abandon our posts. This is madness. Your species lacks the wisdom to understand the scope of this threat. Maybe, the President replied calmly. But we understand something else. We understand that darkness wins when everyone turns off their lights. The Valtharian's expression changed to one of complete confusion. What does that mean? It means, Ambassador, that Earth will be here when this crisis ends. Our rescue stations will remain operational. Our communication networks will stay online. Our borders will remain open to any who need sanctuary. The alien shook his head. You will all die for nothing. Perhaps, but we will die free, and we will die helping others. The transmission ended. Around the bridge, Minho saw his crew standing a little straighter. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something stronger. Pride. Over the next several hours, the evacuation of the galaxy continued. One by one, the great civilizations said their goodbyes and vanished into their hiding places. The Mao trade routes fell silent. The communication networks went dark. The galaxy, which had been alive with the voices of thousands of species, became quiet. Finally, only Earth remained. On every human ship, station, and colony, the lights stayed on. The communication channel stayed open. The rescue beacons continued broadcasting their location to anyone who might need help. Captain Lee Minho looked out at the stars and thought about what was coming. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, ancient horrors were approaching. Every wise civilization in the galaxy had chosen to hide, but not humanity. As always, humans had chosen the difficult path. They would stand guard while others slept. They would keep the light burning while others embraced darkness. The Great. Silence had begun, but Earth's voice would not be part of it. 3 months had passed since the galaxy fell silent. Commander Kim Jisoo stood in the control room of Sanctuary Station 1, Earth's largest refugee processing center. Through the wide windows, she could see ships arriving every day. Small vessels, damaged freighters, and sometimes just escape pods carrying desperate survivors. Commander, we have another group incoming, said her assistant, Sergeant Lee Yuna. Looks like Valtharian nobles this time. Jisoo raised her eyebrows. The Valtharians had always treated humans like children who barely understood space travel. Now they were coming to human stations, asking for help. How many? Jisoo asked. 23 survivors. Their ship is badly damaged. They barely made it here alive. Jisoo walked to the communications panel and opened a channel to the incoming ship. Valtharian vessel. This is Sanctuary Station 1. You are cleared for emergency docking at Bay 7. Medical teams are standing by. The voice that came back was weak and filled with pain. Thank you, humans. We did not expect such kindness. An hour later, Jisoo stood in the medical bay watching human doctors work on injured aliens. The Valtharian who had spoken on the radio was a tall female with golden skin and silver hair. She had lost her left arm in whatever attack had destroyed her world. I am Lady Mirileth, the alien said softly. I was once a member of the High Council of Velthara Prime. What happened to your world? Jisoo asked gently. Lady Mirileth's eyes filled with tears. The Devourers came 3 days ago. We thought our planetary shields would protect us. We were wrong. Her voice broke. They did not just kill our people. They took something from them, their minds, their souls. Those who lived became empty shells walking around but not truly alive. Jisoo felt a chill run through her body. How many escaped? Perhaps a few hundred from a population of 2 billion. We are all that remains of a civilization that lasted 10,000 years. That same day, on Earth, Dr. Choi Hyunwoo was working in his laboratory, studying every piece of information they could gather about the Devourers. Unlike other species who focused on hiding, humans had chosen to learn about their enemy. "Doctor, we just received new data from the Proxima sensor array," said his research partner, Dr. Song Min-jae. "The readings are strange." Hyunwoo looked at the data on his screen. The sensors had detected Devourer activity near an abandoned mining station, but the readings showed something unexpected. "Look at this," Hyunwoo said, pointing to a section of the data. "The Devourers are not just destroying things randomly. They seem to be attracted to fear and despair." "What do you mean?" "Watch this pattern. They attacked the mining station first when the workers were panicking. But look here. When the workers organized and started helping each other evacuate, the Devourer activity decreased." Dr. Song leaned closer to the screen. "Are you saying they feed on negative emotions?" "Maybe. Or maybe they are weakened by positive ones. Hope, courage, working together. We need to test this theory." Meanwhile, in the outer systems, Lieutenant Nam Ji-won was piloting her search and rescue ship through dangerous space. Her vessel was called Wanderer's Rest, and it had become famous among survivors as a symbol of hope. "Control, this is Ji-won. I am picking up a distress signal from the Kepler system, requesting permission to investigate." The voice of Captain Minho came through the radio. He was now commanding all search and rescue operations from his new base on Sanctuary Station 2. "Ji-won, that system was hit by Devourers yesterday. It is too dangerous." "Sir, the signal is weak but definitely there. Someone is still alive." There was a long pause. "Take 2 escort ships with you. And Ji-won, if you see any sign of Devourers, you get out of there immediately." "Understood, sir." Ji-won's ship jumped into the Kepler system and immediately saw the destruction. 3 planets had been attacked. The surfaces were covered in a strange dark mist, and nothing was moving on any of them. "There," said her co-pilot, Ensign Park Jaemin. "The signal is coming from that moon." They found a small research station hidden in a crater on the moon's surface. Inside were 12 scientists from 4 different species. They had been hiding for 2 days without food or water. "Thank the stars," said the lead scientist, an elderly member of the Peaceful Harmony Collective. "We thought no one would come for us." "Humans always come," Ji-won said with a smile. "That is what we do." As they evacuated the scientists, one of them, a young researcher named Dr. Kelmar, shared important information. "The Devourers, they are not just mindless destroyers," he said. "I was monitoring their behavior before we had to hide. They seem to be learning from each attack, studying how different species think and feel." "Learning what?" Ji-won asked. "I do not know. But they spent a long time examining our cultural database before they attacked the main colony." Back on Sanctuary, Station 1, Commander Jisoo was dealing with a new challenge. The station now housed refugees from dozens of different species, many of whom had been enemies of each other for centuries. In the main community area, she watched something remarkable happening. A group of young crystalline beings were teaching human children how to create light sculptures. Nearby, elderly sage world philosophers were sharing stories with Valtharian nobles. Even more surprising, former warriors from the binary confluence were working alongside organic species to repair damaged ships. "I have never seen anything like this," said Lady Mirileth, who had become Jisoo's unofficial assistant. "On Velthara, we would never have mixed with other species so freely." "Why not?" Jisoo asked. "We thought we were better than them. Wiser, more advanced, more civilized." Lady Mirileth looked sad. "We were wrong about many things." Engineer Lim Silgi arrived at the station that afternoon with exciting news. She had been working with the collected refugees to develop new defensive technologies. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, leading Jisoo to a workshop that had been set up in the station's lower levels. Inside, humans and aliens were working together on strange devices that combined technology from multiple civilizations. Crystalline energy systems powered Sage World temporal manipulators, while binary confluence processing units controlled Harmony collective healing equipment. "What is all this?" Jisoo asked. "Defense systems unlike anything that has ever been built," Sulgi explained. "Each species contributed their best technology. Working together, we have created something new. Will it work against the Devourers? I do not know. But it is our best hope." That night, as Jisoo walked through the station's corridors, she saw something that filled her with pride. Humans and aliens working, eating, and living together. Children from different species playing games they had invented together. Adults sharing knowledge and skills. The galaxy's greatest civilizations had chosen to hide in fear. But here, on a simple human station, the future was being built by beings who had chosen hope over fear. Through the station's windows, she could see Earth's beacon array shining in the distance. The lights were still on, still sending their message across the galaxy. Anyone who needed help could find them. The great silence continued, but it was not complete. In the darkness between the stars, human voices still called out, offering sanctuary to any who needed it. And slowly, carefully, the foundation of something new was being built. Something the Devourers had not expected. Something that might just be strong enough to stand against the darkness that was coming. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyun watched the sensor readings with growing concern. His fleet was positioned near the Proxima Relay Station, one of humanity's most important communication hubs. For the past week, they had been tracking something massive moving through nearby systems. "Admiral, the scout ships are reporting back," said Commander Bae Sunho. "The Devourers have reached the Altair system." "How bad is it?" Taehyun asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. "Complete consumption, sir. 4 billion inhabitants on 3 worlds, all gone in less than 6 hours. Taehyun closed his eyes for a moment. The reports from survivors had described what the Devourers did, but seeing the sensor data made it real. Entire civilizations simply vanishing, leaving behind empty planets full of walking corpses. "Sir, we have movement on long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant O'Meara from the detection station. "Something big is heading toward the relay station. Show me." The main screen filled with a view of space that made every person on the bridge step backward. 3 massive shapes moved through the darkness, each one larger than Earth's moon. They looked like living shadows with tentacles that stretched for thousands of miles. "Those are Devourers," Taehyun said quietly. "All ships, prepare for battle." The Aoi human fleet was small compared to the approaching monsters. 12 warships, including Taehyun's flagship Eternal Guardian. They had been designed to fight other ships, not creatures from the void between galaxies. "Admiral, we should retreat," suggested Commander Bae. "We cannot win this fight. If we retreat, they will destroy the relay station. Without it, our rescue operations will be cut in half." Taehyun looked at his crew. "All ships attack Formation Delta. Target the smallest Devourer first." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human missiles and energy beams struck the lead Devourer, and for the first time the creature showed signs of pain. It writhed and pulled back, dark fluid leaking from its wounds. "We can hurt them," Taehyun said with surprise. "All ships concentrate. Fire." But the Devourers learned quickly. The other 2 creatures moved to protect the wounded one, using their tentacles to absorb the human weapons. Worse, as the battle continued, Taehyun began to feel something strange happening to his crew. "Admiral, I feel so tired," said Lieutenant O, her voice becoming flat and emotionless. Around the bridge, other crew members were showing the same symptoms. Their faces became blank, their movements slow. The Devourers were not just fighting. The ships, they were attacking the minds of everyone inside them. This is how they do it, Taehyun realized. They drain hope and courage first, then consume what is left. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, something unexpected happened. From behind the human fleet came a new group of ships. These were not military vessels, but the refugee ships that had been staying near the relay station. "Admiral, this is Lady Miraleth aboard the refugee vessel New Valthara," came a voice over the radio. "We are coming to help." "Stay back," Taehyun ordered. "You are not equipped for battle." "Perhaps not for normal battle," replied the Valtharian noble. "But we have something else." The refugee ships moved into formation around the human fleet. Instead of weapons, they activated something that made the space around them glow with warm light. On each ship, beings from dozens of different species were working together, their combined hope and determination creating something visible. The effect on the devourers was immediate. The creatures recoiled from the light, their tentacles pulling, back as if burned. The feeling of despair that had been affecting the human crews suddenly lifted. "What is that?" asked Commander Bay, his voice full of wonder. "It is hope," said Lady Miraleth. "Your human scientists were correct. These creatures feed on fear and despair, but they are weakened by hope and courage." The battle turned in that moment. Human weapons became more effective as the devourers weakened. The creatures, faced with something they could not consume, began to retreat. But before they left, the largest devourer sent out a strange signal that made everyone shiver. "They are calling for more of their kind," said Lieutenant O, her face pale. "Many more." Back on Sanctuary Station 1, Commander Kim Jisoo felt the station shake as emergency alerts filled the air. The main Devourer fleet had changed course, and was now heading directly for Earth's solar system. "How long do we have?" she asked Engineer Lim Sulgi. "At their current speed, maybe 2 weeks," Sulgi replied. "But Commander, there is something else. We are receiving signals from some of the hidden civilizations." "What kind of signals?" "Requests for information. Some of them want to know what happened at the Proxima battle." Jisoo looked at the communication board. For months, the galaxy had been silent except for human voices. Now, lights were beginning to appear on systems that had been dark since the Great Silence began. "Put me through to all frequencies," Jisoo ordered. "This is Commander Kim Jisoo of Sanctuary Station 1, broadcasting to all hidden civilizations. You have heard about our battle with the Devourers. Yes, we can fight them. Yes, we can win, but not alone. Over the next few days, something remarkable began to happen. Young members of various species started leaving their hiding places and coming to human stations. They came in small groups at first, then in larger numbers. On Sanctuary Station 1, Jisoo watched as her population doubled, then tripled. These were not refugees fleeing destruction, but volunteers coming to join the fight. "Why did you come?" she asked a young crystalline warrior named Bright Edge of Hope. "Because you showed us something we had forgotten." The crystal being replied, "That it is better to fight with hope than to hide in fear." Similar conversations were happening across all human stations. The galaxy's hidden civilizations were split between the old leaders who wanted to stay hidden and the younger generation who wanted to fight. Captain Lee Minho, now commanding the defense of the entire human sector, received reports of this growing alliance with mixed feelings. "Sir, we now have volunteers from 47 different species," reported his aide, Lieutenant Park Dae-young. "That is good news. What is the bad news? The main Devourer fleet is much larger than we thought. Our scouts count over 300 of the creatures, all heading for Earth." Minho looked out at the growing fleet of mixed human and alien ships. They had hope, courage, and determination. But would it be enough against such overwhelming numbers? On Earth, President Park Soo-min was making final preparations. The planet's beacon array was being modified based on what they had learned from the Proxima battle. Instead of just broadcasting location signals, it would project hope itself across space. "Madam President, the evacuations are ready," said her advisor, Minister Kim Tae-young. "We can move the government to the outer colonies." "No," Park replied firmly. "If Earth's light goes out, hope dies with it. We stay." Across human space, similar decisions were being made. On every ship, station, and colony, humans and their allies prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history. The Devourers were coming to extinguish the light that had been burning in the darkness. But that light was no longer alone. It had spread to thousands of beings from dozens of worlds, all united by a simple human belief that it was better to stand and fight together than to hide alone in the dark. Captain Seo Jungwon stood on the bridge of his ship Unity's Promise, watching as dozens of vessels from different species formed up around him. 2 weeks had passed since the Proxima battle, and everything had changed. "Captain, the Crystalline Squadron is in position," reported his communications officer, Ensign Han Minji. "The Sage World ships are ready as well." "Good. What about our Valtharian friends?" "Lady Miralith reports her people are eager to fight. She says they want to prove they are worthy of human friendship." Junghwan smiled at that. 3 months ago, the Valtharians had thought humans were barely civilized. Now they were asking to serve under human command. "All ships, this is Captain Seo. We are about to enter the Vega system for search and rescue operations. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We are fighting for the idea that beings can work together." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading toward another system that had gone silent. They were now part of something called the Free Alliance, a name that Captain Junghwan had suggested during their first joint meeting. The Free Alliance was growing every day. Young members of the hidden civilizations continued to leave their refuges and join the human-led coalition. They brought with them advanced technologies and centuries of knowledge, but more importantly, they brought hope. On Earth, Dr. Choi Hyunwoo was working with the largest research team ever assembled. Scientists from 20 different species were studying everything they could learn about the Devourers. "Doctor, we have made another breakthrough," said Dr. Song Min-jae, rushing into the laboratory with a data pad. "What did you find?" "The Devourers are not originally from the void between galaxies. Look at these genetic traces we found in the wreckage from Proxima." Hyunwoo studied the data carefully. "These patterns look familiar. Where have I seen them before?" Dr. Lyralay, a young Sage World researcher, looked up from her workstation. "They match records from the First Galactic Empire, the civilization that existed before all current species evolved." "You mean the Devourers were once like us?" Dr. Song asked. "Not just like us," Dr. Lyralay said quietly. "I think they were us. Or rather, they were what happened to the first galactic civilization. When it fell to despair, the implications were staggering. If the Devourers had once been a normal civilization, it meant they could potentially be saved rather than destroyed. Meanwhile, the main Devourer fleet continued its approach toward Earth. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyun commanded the defense forces from his new flagship, Last Stand. Around him, the largest fleet in human history was taking shape. "Admiral, we now have ships from 63 different species," reported Commander Bae Sun-ho. "But the numbers are still not good." "How many Devourers are we facing?" "Latest count is 412. Each one is the size of a small moon." Tae-hyun looked at the tactical display. Even with all their allies, the Free Alliance fleet numbered only 800 ships, and most of those were not designed for this kind of battle. "Sir, incoming message from President Park," announced the communications officer. The president's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral, how are our preparations going?" "As well as can be expected, Madam President. But I have to be honest, the odds are not in our favor." "I understand. But Admiral, Dr. Choi has shared some interesting discoveries with me. The Devourers may not be what we think they are." Before Tae-hyun could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Admiral, the Devourers have arrived at the edge of the solar system," called out Lieutenant O'Meara. "They are moving toward Earth. All ships, this is Admiral Tae-hyun. The final battle begins now. Remember what we are fighting for." The space around Earth became filled with ships as the Free Alliance fleet moved to intercept the approaching Devourers. On the planet below, every city was lit up like a beacon. The modified beacon array was ready to broadcast hope across the entire solar system. The Devourers moved like a dark wave through space, their massive forms blotting out the stars. As they approached, people on Earth could feel their presence, like a cold weight pressing down on their minds. But something was different this time. Instead of fear taking hold, the people of Earth felt something else. Unity, determination, hope. On Sanctuary Station 1, Commander Kim Jisoo watched as refugees and volunteers from dozens of species worked together to keep the station operational. Commander, all civilian ships have been evacuated to the outer system, reported Sergeant Lee Yuna. Good. Now we wait and see if our plan works. The plan was simple but desperate. Instead of just fighting the Devourers with weapons, they would use Earth's beacon array to broadcast the combined hope and determination of every being in the Free Alliance. If Dr. Choi was right about the Devourers feeding on despair, then perhaps overwhelming them with hope would have an effect. Captain Lee Min-ho, now commanding a mixed squadron of human and alien ships, led the first attack wave against the approaching Devourers. All ships, remember what we learned at Proxima. Stay close together. Support each other. Do not let fear take hold. The battle began as the first weapons struck the lead Devourers. The creatures writhed and attacked back with tentacles of living darkness that tried to drain the hope from the attacking ships. But this time was different. The crews of the Free Alliance ships were not alone in their courage. They could feel the support of every being in the Alliance broadcast by Earth's beacon array. It is working, reported Lady Miraleth from her ship. The Devourers are weaker than before. The battle raged across the solar system. Ships from dozens of species fought side by side against creatures that had consumed entire civilizations. Some ships were lost, brave crews sacrificing themselves to protect others. Captain Lee Min-ho's ship took heavy damage while protecting a group of refugee vessels. As emergency systems failed around him, he made a decision that would be remembered forever. All ships, this is Min-ho. I am going to ram the lead Devourer. Use the opening to get closer to Earth. Min-ho, no, came Admiral Taehyun's voice over the radio. Sir, it has been an honor. Tell my family I kept the light burning. Min-ho's ship, the Beacon of Hope, accelerated toward the massive Devourer. But instead of just crashing into it, something amazing happened. The ship's beacon array, powered by the hope of everyone watching, created a burst of light so bright it could be seen across the solar system. The Devourer, touched by that light, began to change. The darkness covering it started to fade, revealing something underneath that looked almost familiar. By the stars, whispered Dr. Choi, watching from Earth. They are not just feeding on consciousness. They are trying to remember what they lost. The battle continued, but now the Free Alliance had a new weapon. Not just hope, but the promise of redemption. As more Devourers were touched by the beacon's light, more began to show signs of change. The final phase of the battle was about to begin. The light from Captain Lee Min-ho's sacrifice spread across the battlefield like a wave. Where it touched the Devourers, their dark forms began to shimmer and change. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyun watched in amazement as the creature that had been struck directly started to take on a different shape. Admiral, the Devourer is transforming, reported Commander Bae Sun-ho. It looks like it is remembering something. All ships, hold your fire, Tae-hyun ordered. Let us see what happens. On Earth, President Park Soo-min stood in the command center watching the battle unfold. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo was beside her, monitoring the beacon array's output. Madam President, the beacon is working beyond our expectations, Dr. Choi said. The hope and memories we are broadcasting are having a real effect on the Devourers. What kind of effect? I think we are helping them remember who they used to be. The transformed Devourer had stopped attacking. Instead, it was floating quietly in space, its form becoming more solid and less shadow-like. Suddenly, it began to broadcast a signal of its own. This is Shepherd of Lost Souls, came a voice filled with ancient sadness. I remember now. We were the guardians of this galaxy long ago. We were meant to protect and guide younger civilizations. Admiral Tae-hyun felt chills run down his spine. What happened to you? We failed. A great darkness came to our galaxy millions of years ago, not from outside but from within. Despair, hopelessness. We tried to absorb the negative emotions to protect others, but instead, they consumed us. We became what we had tried to fight. Around the battlefield, other devourers were beginning to slow their attacks. The light from Earth's beacon was reaching them all, carrying with it the combined hope of every species in the Free Alliance. President Park made a decision that would change galactic history forever. She activated the communication system to broadcast to every devourer in the solar system. Ancient Guardians, you are not alone anymore. We know what happened to you. We know you have been trapped in darkness for millions of years. But darkness does not have to win. You cannot help us, replied Shepherd of Lost Souls. We have consumed too many worlds, destroyed too many lives. The guilt and despair are too strong. Perhaps, said the president. But we humans believe in something called redemption. We believe that no one is beyond saving if they truly want to change. On Sanctuary Station 1, Commander Kim Jisoo was coordinating with representatives from dozens of species. The station had become the communication hub for the entire galaxy, as hidden civilizations finally began to emerge from their refuges. Commander, we are receiving signals from the crystalline hegemony, reported Sergeant Lee Yuna. They want to know if it is safe to come out. Tell them that nothing is completely safe, Jisoo replied. But tell them also that they are needed. This is not just about fighting anymore. This is about healing. Lady Miraleth, who had become Jisoo's closest advisor, looked up from her workstation. The sage worlds are emerging as well, and the binary confluence. They all want to help. Help with what? With saving the devourers. The idea seemed impossible, but across the galaxy something unprecedented was beginning to happen. The hidden civilizations were not just coming out of hiding. They were bringing with them their greatest treasures, technologies, and knowledge, to help heal beings that had been their enemies just hours before. In the solar system, the battle had stopped completely. Instead of weapons fire, space was filled with something else. Memories. The Free Alliance ships were broadcasting the collected memories and experiences of their crews. Stories of hope, love, sacrifice, and redemption. Dr. Choi had discovered that the devourers were not just consuming consciousness. They were trying to understand it, searching through the memories of their victims for something they had lost, their own capacity for hope and joy. If we can give them what they are looking for, Dr. Choi explained to President Park, maybe they can remember how to be themselves again. The process was not easy or quick. Some devourers fought against the transformation, too lost in their ancient despair to accept help. But others began to change, their shadow forms becoming more solid and taking on shapes that resembled the beings they had once been. Shepherd of Lost Souls was the first to complete the transformation. Where once had been a creature of living, darkness now floated a being of pure light and energy, ancient beyond measure but no longer consumed by despair. We remember now, Shepherd said, his voice filled with wonder. We remember what it was like to feel hope, to protect instead of consume, to guide instead of destroy. What will you do now? Asked Admiral Taehyun. We will try to undo the damage we have caused. The worlds we consumed, the civilizations we destroyed. Some cannot be brought back, but we can ensure their memories are preserved, and we can help prevent such darkness from spreading again. Over the following days, more devourers completed their transformation. They called themselves the Shepherds, as they had in ancient times. They worked with the Free Alliance to restore damaged worlds and help the survivors of their attacks. The galaxy that emerged from the crisis was very different from the one that had hidden in fear. The old barriers between species had been broken down. The Free Alliance evolved into something new, the New Galactic Covenant, founded on principles that humans had taught the galaxy. Keep your doors open. Leave a light on for those who need help. No one is beyond redemption if they truly want to change. Commander Kim Jisoo became the first human to serve as ambassador to the New Galactic Council. On her first day, she stood before representatives of over 200 species, including several shepherds who had chosen to serve as advisors and guardians. We gather here not as separate civilizations competing for resources, she said, but as one galaxy working together for the benefit of all. Engineer Lim Silgi was put in charge of the new beacon network that now connected every inhabited system in the galaxy. These beacons did more than just provide navigation. They broadcast hope itself, ensuring that no world would ever fall to despair again. Dr. Choi Hyunwoo established the Galactic Research Institute, where scientists from every species worked together to understand consciousness, hope, and the forces that bind civilizations together. And at the center of it all, Earth's beacon continued to shine, no longer alone in the darkness but surrounded by thousands of other lights. The planet that had refused to hide when everyone else locked their doors had become the heart of a new galactic civilization. President Park, now elderly but still determined, often stood in her office looking up at the stars. The galaxy was full of light now, full of hope and cooperation. "Madam President," her aide would sometimes ask, "do you ever regret the decision to stay when everyone else was hiding?" Park would smile and point to the lights filling the night sky. "How could I regret helping to light up the galaxy, the great?" Silence was over. In its place was something better. A galaxy where every world kept its doors open and left a light on for anyone who needed to find their way home.